Thinking. This, again, what is doubt? Doubt is an obstacle on your path. It is an obstacle, a spiritual obstacle, and a mental obstacle on your path to further your progress. And if we stop doubting, we could do so many more things. More than we could possibly imagine. There's a beautiful saying that what affects innovation? It's not the failure which kills innovation, it's the doubting which kills innovation. If we never doubted about anything, we just kept on trying, the innovation would be 500 times more advanced. And because we have so many ideas which are born, which are inspired to us, which are given to us by the Divine, but the mind constantly doubts and says, no, I can't do it, it's impossible.
You know what I think also is that the way we've been learning is wrong. Because we've been learning all the time to with certain, okay, it has to be like this, it has to be like that. And then you already put a picture and so you expect it to be like this. And if not, you're like, oh, I don't manage. So you don't test, you don't explore.
Really doesn't help. Yes. Creativity is a huge problem in educational system. But this, anyway, it's a spiritual sign. So the doubt also comes, the spiritual doubt, or losing of faith, or losing of hope. And if somebody loses hope and faith, then that person turns really downwards. And I just met a friend and we had a talk. She's a very strong believer, she has a very strong faith in Christ, in Christianity. She's studying theology. And her friend had a crisis, and she couldn't find God. And then she started using drugs. And so her life turned really downwards because she lost all hope. And once you lose all hope, then you do whatever. Whatever just happens, then it doesn't matter. Then all the values go down, all the actions go down, and then it's really difficult to come back. But once we reconnect with our deepest self, we will never lose hope. Because once you experience and you consciously realize that the connection with your true self, then you will never lose faith, you will never lose hope. And that has to be an experience. Because if you place your hope and your faith on a belief in something external, then there will always come doubts. Because you place your hope and your faith onto something which is external, onto external belief. And then you have to have a lot of analysis. Is it right? Is it wrong? Should I do this or that? But once you experience your own true nature, your own connection with yourself, then that faith and hope will never go away. Because in that moment you can realize that deep inside you there is God. Deep inside you it's a place of home. This is your home. This is your true self. There is always peace deep inside you. So this conscious recognition then changes your whole mentality, your whole psychology. And your soul then recognizes that yes, that is the place where I came from. So many of us do experience connection with ourselves when we're in the nature, when we are sitting quiet, and for a moment everything falls silent. But we don't consciously recognize what it is. Because suddenly the mind jumps in and we carry on with our problems without even recognizing what was that moment. And that we can come back to this moment, that it is within us, and that is our true nature. So not only an experience is required, but also conscious understanding. Because otherwise the mind will overshadow it right away. And again, the soul will be in forgetfulness. So you see, the beauty is that we are always connected to the source. We are always connected to God. But the mind has forgotten this connection. And therefore there is an immense amount of suffering. It's like amnesia.
It's like one is saying that and the other one is
Yes,
they don't connect.
It's like you forgot your name, you forgot who you are, you forgot your PIN number of your credit card.
ID card number. We lost them. Without our ID.
And if you lose your ID, if you lose your PIN number of your credit card, you have a lot of trouble, isn't it?
You the everyday caption and you like this number somewhere, private. It's no problem because you will find it. At that moment you lose it, you can find it, not only as a number.
So the same way you need to consciously recognize that this experience of being fully present, of being deeply connected with yourself, is your true home, is what your heart truly wants, is the destiny of your soul, is the place of completion. It's the true fulfillment of all your desires, of all your wishes, of all your longings for love and happiness. And the mind again will start thinking, the mind does not understand completely. How can this be the source of love and the source of happiness? So the mind has to be clarified and has to lighten up, take off the weight of heaviness. It's also called as a veil of illusion. So constantly on top of your eyes there is a projection, a veil of the past and future, and they're all intermingled. which is called like spaghetti of the mind.
What?
Spaghetti of the mind. You know, it's so messed up that you can't really find where is the end. You know, where is the beginning? You know, how to sort it out. It's always confusion, always doubts, always problems, always stress. So returning home is, in other words, transcending the mind, or going above the mind and seeing clearly that the mind is only a bunch of thoughts. The mind is like spaghetti which needs to be sorted out. And I'm not going to sort it out by logical reasoning only, because that is impossible. If you try to transcend, if you try to sort out the mind with the mind, it doesn't work that way.
So why you say if we have
Because the problem cannot be solved with the
By
problem.
itself.
It needs a solution. Because there will be another problem and another problem. It just keeps on turning. And it keeps on spinning in circles. Problem follows with another problem. And it never ends, And the soul is traveling for 25,000 years and it never ends. The problem never finishes. And that's a huge thing, really. 25,000 years is something substantial. Yes.
On one soul level,
Yes.
25,000 years.
how many years? So what can I
So
ask
how
you?
blind
So even transcending the mind for the moment, you already start fixing the problems of 25,000 years. This is how immense it is. This is how valuable it is. Being present for a moment, for a few minutes, heals your whole past
Wow, imagine.
and your whole future lifetimes, which would have been influenced by the mind. In Buddhism, it's called karma. You would have to be reborn again and again and again to complete the cycle, to return to the source, to come back home. In Christianity, it also talks about the place of purification. That in between the earth and the heaven, there is a place of purification. And a place called hell for the really bad souls. But generally, it's purification in between. So being present, even just for a few moments, heals the whole cycle of all the past and all the future. So literally, we are saving lifetimes. Sometimes people come to me and they say, Mindo, you saved me already 10 lifetimes. Because I realized so much already, and I feel so close to myself that I know I will no longer need to come back again and to repeat the same mistakes again. So returning, being present is returning, remembering and returning to our true nature, to who we truly are. And who we truly are is love. This is the core of Jesus' teaching. Love is peace and stillness. Buddhism is Tao, harmony, is joy and happiness. This is who we truly, truly are. And no limitations. We're infinite beings, unlimited. Only the body is limited. This is a form, or a vessel, or a tool which we use. As Jesus was saying, to go back to heaven, you have to leave the flesh. And then you will ascend to heaven, to the eternal life. So the flesh is the body and the mind. And once we leave that, when we transcend, our soul, our spirit returns to heaven, to the eternal nature. And we shouldn't look for escape plans. You know? Then people start understanding, oh, the actual problem is my body. So if I jump out of the bridge, I will go to heaven. No, not really. Because you still carry your mind. Or some people think if I go to another place, all the problems will finish. Not really, no. Because you still carry yourself. You still carry your mind, your karma, wherever you go. So there is a beautiful saying that you can only escape not externally but internally.
Can you repeat this, please?
The escape from the problems, from the suffering, is not going externally to another country, to another place, jumping off the bridge. No. The place where everything ends is internally, where all problems disappear,
So,
where the suffering finishes.
so karma belongs to the mind.
Yes. It's identification with the mind. Ego is identification with the mind. This is what the definition of ego. The mind itself is not a problem, but identification with the mind, that is the problem. It's a wrong ID, wrong identity, wrong passport. Somebody gave a wrong passport. It's not your name on it. It's not your photo in the ID. It's not who you truly are. You only believe that you are this person, this mind, but you're not. And that's why the problems arise, because you believe you're something and which you are not. It's false, it's wrong, it's sin. In Christianity it's called sin. In Buddhism it's called ignorance. You're ignorant of the truth. You're identified with the wrong thing. So when we transcend the mind, suddenly our identification starts dropping, disappearing, lightening up. And then we realize that I am beyond the mind. I am something which is beautiful, which does not require these heavy energies, heavy processing. We don't need to carry luggages and all on top of our heads. And as you're returning home to who you truly are, you are suddenly dropping off who you are not. And that is a huge relief. Because imagine you're carrying like 20 sandbags it's so heavy, you know, it's so unpleasant. But as you're returning, you're starting to cut off the sandbags. And you start flying, just like the balloon, air balloon, you know?
I was telling her about this, why I'm not, before we came here. Well, it's difficult to find. You take many things, as you were saying, but there are many more other things. I don't know if you understand.
I am not. It's what the mind
Why
carries.
I'm not? Why I'm not? Who she is?
There are two beautiful questions. Who am I?
And why I'm not?
And then to clarify, who am I not? And as you go deeper inside you, you ask a question, who am I? And then something arises, a thought arises. And then you clearly recognize, I'm not this. I'm not this thought. I'm not that thought. I'm not that. I'm not this. And you start dropping off all those false beliefs, false ideas. And then suddenly you feel something opens up inside you. And then suddenly you start lifting up your vibration. Then your spirit expands. It comes closer to its true nature. This practice is called self-inquiry. Self-inquiry.
Yes.
Inquiry. Inquire. Ask. Is it true? Is it really so? And with self-inquiry you will find the truth. What is the truth? What is the true reality? And you will inquire into yourself and experience yourself. And once you experience it yourself, then you know it. And you don't need to believe it because you already know it, you already experience it. So the doubt and the belief which was there then drops away. And you lighten up and more love and light flows into you.
Meditation back to the bone. Good start meditation. After 26 years,
It's a couple.
How come it's
Just click the back button.
You always need the help of not only somebody, even by reading or asking. It's difficult to make it better.
Yes, because alone you will get stuck. You will reach a point and your mind will get stuck. There will be too many noodles in between and you can't see through. So then you come to somebody who has already went through it and who already found the source. Then that person can help.
Just one question. So if we have all these thoughts, people, so how did we have this problem of too much thinking? So is it the way they have to consciously to stop thinking, like to control themselves? Like when they realize they start thinking what they don't want, they should change it, or it's better to accept it and just, okay, it's just a thought, and then you think about it and they go. And then naturally they, you stop thinking. You understand my question?
Yes.
So what is the way, or is different for everyone?
The true way is to transcend the mind, to transcend the whole thinking. is not to stop thinking, not to change thinking, not to fix thinking, not to change negative thoughts into positive thoughts. Because you're trying to fix the mind with the mind.
Yes, that's why.
Obviously, it's nicer to have a positive mind than the negative mind. It's better a bit, but it still doesn't fix
It's
it.
not good enough.
Yes. So the real way is to transcend it.
How about this?
So you go into yourself, and then you see that your mind is thinking, and the mind is like a river which just flows in your head. But what you do, you step out of that river, and you just for a moment you recognize, oh, my mind is thinking, and let it think. It's okay.
That's my
No, it's here, yeah.
that's my question. Yeah. So let it think. It's fine.
Yes, but then don't drop back into thinking. Because if for a moment you will accept it, for a moment, then that moment is beautiful. It's a moment of presence. But then, if you drop back in it, then you're again flowing in the same river.
That means you mean that you realize that you think, but then you keep on thinking anyway, and then it's.
So then you ask another question: who is thinking?
What if the mind is a state?
Just let's finish there. So if there are thoughts in your head, yes, and for a moment you recognize, oh, my mind is thinking.
Yes.
Then there are two of you, isn't it? There's the mind and you.
But I recognize that, yes, and I'm like, I'm saying to myself, oh, okay, this is the thing, I'm thinking now, and I'm like, okay, but it's naturally, I'm like, okay, so, and I let it do it because it takes too much energy just to stop or it to change or to say, you cannot fix it. So I think it's gonna come, when you recognize.
Yeah, because the mind has a huge momentum. It has a huge momentum. So when you stop for a while, you become present, and it's immensely valuable. But then your mind, because of this huge momentum, drops back in. And then again, oh, okay, what should I do now?
Yeah, but the thing is, if you remain present,
Then circle again. Yeah, what should I do now?
Oh, I see a huge opening in your head now.
It will come.
And then you gain strength. Then you gain strength. Okay, there is a huge momentum in my head. But I'm not this head. I'm not this mind. I'm not this activity which is just constantly flowing through. And as you remember that, and then you see you create a moment of gap, a moment of space in between. So as you create this moment of gap, a clear recognition, okay, I'm not that. So stay there in that moment of silence. And that will give you strength. It's like planting a seed of presence, which we talked about last time. So you plant this little seed of silence, of stillness, and then it grows, it expands. And your mind starts losing momentum and becoming weaker, becoming slower. Not slower thinking, but slower as in energy. And then the presence arises. And then the strength of your spirit arises. And then you gain the strength over your mind. And then the mind becomes like your puppy.
That's so true.
And then it's just little puppy who's barking, you know?
Shut up!
And you can do that. You can just change it like this, and then if as you have more presence, and if you notice your mind is back in it, you just like this, and it stops, and again you're present, and then you just do a bit of inquiry of oh, why did it came back? What it made come back? What's the reason why it returned? And then you clarify that reason, and then it drops away again, and the puppy becomes even smaller.
So then you have to do like a homework, why you think about what you think.
This is called wisdom. As you go beyond the mind, you gain wisdom. You gain understanding of the mind. You gain strength and power over the mind. And the mind is like 25,000 years of conditioning, the past and the future. It's a big thing, but it's not that big actually. With the right tools, with the right presence, it's not so difficult. And as you gain more power, you will start feeling so good, because suddenly you can change everything. You can change everything inside of you. And you gain freedom.